joined today by Peter Zaras, the CEO of OPIC. Peter, you've spoken in the past about a more useful and effective way of understanding executive challenges and how to assist executives in their role. Can you tell us a bit about OPIC's research into executives?
Yeah, I guess our research started some 16 years ago when we first had the challenge of identifying which executives or senior leaders within organisations were likely to be successful. This research really looked at two important areas of organisational needs. The first one being when you bring an executive or, in the case of professional services firms, a new partner into the organisation, how do you know that they'll be successful? The most common historical way, of course, was to look at resumes and trust referee reports, but was there a way of predicting success without primary data, such as working with the person for 4 or 5 years? The second interest we had, of course, was how do we assist executives themselves in being successful? The demands on executives are onerous, broad, and many people struggle to meet with them. So we started becoming interested in developing executives, but specifically to be successful in executive roles, not just to solve problems within their current roles.
Could you tell us a little bit about the OPIC's executive capabilities model?
Yeah, the executive capabilities model is the foundation of much of our work with leaders and executives. The concept of executive capabilities really came from frustration around trying to understand what leadership was. There's literally walls and walls in libraries around leadership, and I find that trying to understand leadership in broad context confuses the matter. We wanted to get very specific and help executives understand specifically what was required in their job and what was common in all executive roles. The research led us to the conclusion there are 6 common executive capabilities which lead to success. The capacity for an executive to build the business and to be successful in a competitive environment. Of course, this varies from organisation to organisation. But what doesn't vary is the capacity to influence outside of what you know, which we call broad-based influencing, and which is also part of our broader influencing services. Thirdly, the capacity to think strategically and to lead strategically, to set a future direction. Fourthly, leading people, which includes coaching people, managing performance, motivating people, managing budgets. Fifth, how do you achieve results? Do you drive outcomes? Are you structured? And lastly, your resilience. What we found was, regardless of the organisation, whether they were professional services firms, whether they were mining organisations, consumer goods, retail, government, there were commonalities. And your ability to achieve success through these 6 capabilities formed the basis of our research.
That's certainly quite a unique approach. Peter, could you perhaps elaborate on how the executive capabilities model applies to executives being successful in their roles?
Yes, well, often executives are promoted because they've been very effective at doing a particular thing. For example, a senior associate in a legal firm or an accounting firm will be promoted because of the contribution they make to the organisation's overall financial success. Because they create wealth and success for partners, they tend to be promoted and rewarded for this, and rightly so. The problem is the difference between the roles is quite significant, and being successful in one level or at one level does not necessarily lead to success at other levels. However, if you understand what's required at a different level, for example, the requirements on an executive general manager are very different from the requirements of a frontline manager, and the potential to be able to make that transition is what the executive capabilities are all about. So we do it in 3 ways. Firstly, via assessment, we assist executives or leaders to understand their natural style. Secondly, we help them understand how their style relates to the requirements of the job. And thirdly, we put together a development plan to assist them to focus on not only their strengths and therefore to maximise their success, but also to minimise the impact of their potential weaknesses. In that way, you're able to sustain success in those roles and to understand the difference between being successful as a leader and as a technical expert.
Well, that's certainly a lot of food for thought. Thank you very much for your time today, Peter.
Cheers.